Well, welcome back, everybody, to Two Pastors and a Mic. My name is Shannick,
And I'm Corey.
and we're so excited that you're joining us wherever you're listening from or watching from. Thank you so much for joining us, whether it's on podcast platform or YouTube or GAN network.
Speaking of GAN.
Yeah, speaking of GAN.
We'll get to that in a second.
Well, you about gave it
I
away
got
already.
excited. I got
He is
so excited.
Corey is like so pumped today.
It is.
We're having a great time at Bishop Jamie's conference, the CIM conference, and as you've heard already, we've had some amazing guests so far.
We have.
And we're just keeping this trend going with amazing guests because today I know we have somebody that has been influential in my life, and I know, Corey, you believe the same. We have Don Keathley with us today.
In person, in the flesh.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, with us. And we're pumped. And Don, whenever you or whenever I heard that you were going to be coming, Corey, the first thing that we talked about is how can we get you on this podcast? So thank you and welcome to Two Pastors and a Mic.
Thank you. Glad to be here. And I'm glad that my booking agent had some space he could squeeze me in for you guys. It's unusual that I can just do something on the spur of the moment. I'm so busy. No, it's great to be here, really. And I'm honored. Thank you, guys.
This is why I love him. Okay, if you have not listened to Don Keathley or read any of his books or been associated with what he is a part of, welcome to your mind being blown. Yep. But I want you to know that if you've been a part of Hill City or Two Pastors and a Mic, you've already heard from him through us. And I know you won't like this, but my affirmations towards you are like top 2 most influential human beings on my spiritual walk. I found you, I think, 10 years ago and has been on this journey, just binge listening, reading your stuff, and then actually going to your school. I'm a big supporter of Don Keathley. I feel like you're that father figure that, like, don't you ever say anything bad about Don. When I see people on the internet say anything negative, I want to get in there and be like, wait a second here. You don't cross Don Keathley. So I'm so grateful because I know it wasn't easy. And I know you are trailing, what's it called? Blazing a trail.
Yeah,
pioneering something that I get to reap a lot of the benefits of your hard work and labor. So I'm so grateful and appreciative for who you are.
Well, I appreciate that. And, I'm just like you guys. I'm just trying to be sensitive to what the Father's doing in the earth today. And my whole thing is I just see what he's doing and I try to jump in the middle of it. Yeah. And I find that that's the easy way to live. And it produces some phenomenal results that you don't even anticipate. So I think where the Father has all of us right now is a pretty exciting time in history. And I like to feel that we've come to the kingdom for such a time as this. It's pretty amazing.
It really is. And that's why I like him. So he's such a phenomenal teacher and a great writer. But you are better as a person behind the scenes. You actually would not rather be up front, and you probably don't even really want to even be on this podcast just because that's who you are, and the humility that just comes from you. It's amazing. So,
yeah, well, I enjoy doing stuff like this, but I really like organization. I like putting things together, and I like doing things with people. And so, yeah, if I had my choice, I probably would not be the upfront guy. Although it seems like that's what I've been pushed into all my life, and from being the pastor, the guy with the staff and the whole 9 yards, to everything I've done at Global Grace, I would be happy not to be the president and just be a teacher.
Yeah.
But and same with GAN, that I just flew into that and president of that. But I'm happy just to blend in with the other people, my 2 partners, Robin and Lane. And they're phenomenal and just makes a good team. So I like teamwork. I like working with a team. Yeah. That's really, and I do my part. I'm willing to be out front if that's my part at that time. But I like teamwork. I like being part of a group.
Yeah.
In ministry, especially.
I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah. And so you just mentioned the GAN. Can you just explain that a little bit to our listeners, what that is, and maybe how you got started in that?
I was on another little network doing a television program for quite some time. Well, I used to be on Daystar, and I was on there for about 3 years. But then after I got a hold of the Grace Message, that was not a place for me anymore. So I was on a little network. And the Father just began to work on me and say, look, it's time we took this Grace Message to a bigger platform. And I thought about the biggest platform we could find, and that would be television. And I had no idea. So I began to scout around, and I found that Roku was the dominant player on the streaming scene with 75 million households that have Roku. So I got a hold of Robin Smith's husband. Robin Smith is my book publisher, and he's a businessman in California. And I said, hey, Steve, would you just check in this from a business standpoint, see if it's even feasible or whatever? Yeah. He got back and said, yeah, I think, it's doable. It's cost some money to get going and that kind of thing. But he said, it's doable. And he loved the idea. So I have a friend named Lane McCall, who's owns a television production company. I got a hold of Lane and said, I'd like to do a Roku thing. He said, that's right down my alley, man. I can do the whole back end, all the technical stuff. I can put it together. So that was we launched in March, and that was about last maybe July, August, something like that. So we began to put it together. Then I began to contact potential people to be on the network, Baxter and Steve McVeigh and the whole crew. And everybody just jumped on board like, wow, this is amazing. So we launched the Grace Awakening Network in March. Right now we have 100 different programs. We still got a little room to expand, but it's been 24/7 Grace, and everybody on the network. It's the qualification, no transactional gospel. We're all hip deep in grace, radical, pure, hyper grace messages. So I'm looking to. I told the people, I said, look, we need to tell Daystar and TBN, here we come. We're coming with a grace message. Watch out. Yeah. So we're building, and we're real optimistic about the future. Yep. And this thing is just growing. The grace message, the message of inclusion, unconditional love, is growing globally by leaps and bounds. And when I first got in the message 25 years ago, it was like there was nobody around. Yeah. But now it's like this tsunami that's just picking up unbelievable momentum. So the reception for the network's been phenomenal. We get a lot of response from people that watch and are being blessed by it. Yep. So
you can find that on Roku, but you can also, there's also now a website that
you can go to GAN.com, and you can pick it up on your mobile phone or on your computer, or it's on Roku. Just hit your little voice activator, say Grace Awakening Network, and it should come right up on Roku. But yeah, since we put it over on the website, the viewership has leaped. Yeah. So there's a lot of people older people have problems navigating Roku sometimes, so they jump on their computer or phone able to watch the programs.
And you can watch over 100 different people talking about the goodness and grace of God. It's pretty incredible.
And then we have on demand, which I really like. So if you miss a program, you can go on demand, and everybody's program is logged in. So there's thousands of hours of programming on the on demand.
So much. And that's just what you're doing or have been doing over the last year.
Right.
But you're also the founder and president of Global Grace Seminary.
Right.
Which if you want to get the secondary education or continue in your education, as someone who has multiple master degrees from other universities, Global Grace has been my favorite academic setting ever. Right. And I push it all the time, and it is so incredible. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and even kind of how that started?
Sure. It was back when I came into this message, there was no place that I could find any books, materials. I would get a video here, a book there, and I began to think, gosh, what we really need in this thing that's taken off around the world, we need an educational system. So I began to put together Global Grace Seminary. I had a man in my church that had another online seminary, so he was able to work on the back end of it, kind of get the classroom set up and that kind of thing. So again, I contacted the guys about teaching and being the professors, and that worked out well. So my original plan was to start with a master's degree, because that's what a seminary is. When I went to seminary, you get your master's degree. But I found a lot of the guys that are pastoring and teaching the message didn't have a bachelor's degree. So we started with a bachelor degree. And then from there, we extended into the master's degree. Steve McVeigh put our master's degree together. And then from there, we recently launched our doctoral program, which Dr. Rice
Ha.
is actually our first doctor of ministry from Global Grace Seminary,
Yep.
par excellence. He's a great student. Everybody at the school just loved his work and his tenacity and his drive to. He got his master's and doctors with Global Grace. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of at that point. I think we have about 300 students right now that are active, and we're basically work at your own speed. We don't have any set deadlines. I set it up that way purposely because I knew that we'd be working with a lot of people that were pastors or had busy schedules, work full time. We wanted to make it all online, which would be easy access, and to keep it cost efficient. So right now, I think we're probably the most affordable
by far
bachelor, master, doctor programs that you can find in the country. And we have probably the best known teachers of this message.
You really do.
That are stacked up. I think we have about 35 professors involved in the program. So that's worked well. I was happy doing that. And then, of course, the Grace Awakening Network came along. I do Sunday morning Digital Cathedral every Sunday, and I do a Secret Place Wednesday night on Facebook Live. So
you're a busy man.
For an old retired guy, my wife just rolls her eyes and says, I thought she was retired. I got out of the building in 2018 and turned my thing over to the younger guy. So my wife said, get us a house in the country. We're going to lay back. I said, okay. So we got the house in the country, but I've been busy as I ever was. So she just chides me all the time, like, hey, dude, you need to get a life and get out of some of this stuff. Ain't going to happen.
Well, I'll say your life is impacting others. I know for me, one of the things that I most love about you, and I don't know what happens, behind the scenes or any, inner conflict you face on a daily basis. But I want to say that just your confidence to trust so much in God's goodness that you're not afraid to be you,
right?
And to speak it, and you don't back down. And things that would be controversial or not accepted in evangelical church, you just run straight with the message of goodness and grace, and it's like you don't care if they're trying to silence you. You're going to speak it anyway, and nothing's going to hold you back. And it's what we've been saying with all of our guests, like this message of grace and New Covenant Kingdom is what I like to call it. It's one of the things where once you start seeing things about his goodness, you can't unsee them.
No, that's true.
And you can't go back. And yeah, you are blazing the trail and pioneering. And I just love mostly your one-liners you put out there on Facebook.
Oh my gosh, they're great.
They're amazing. So don't stop. Keep that up, because sometimes those one-liners, it'll be something where I know I'm contemplating on one sentence you posted for a week or 2 weeks, and having that develop some of my thought process. So I just want to say thank you for that.
He'll text me and say, do you see Don's post yet? And I'm like, oh yeah. And loved it.
Yeah, when I first started posting like that 20 years ago, I would run 500 comments on a post because there was nobody. I mean, everybody was opposed, and it'd be very adversarial, very confrontational. Actually, I learned my apologetics on Facebook with this message because I would just have to, I would get in there at that time. I would battle with it and argue and fight and fuss. And looking back, I looked at some of the posts. We had over 500 comments on a post. But now, the thing is, now the message is getting much more well received, so we don't get that kind of pushback that we used to get. Yeah. So toughest people now are the people that teach a mixture message of law and grace.
Facts.
I find those are the toughest people to work with right now.
Yep. For sure. Well, you also have several books. So if you're a reader, man, and you have more books coming out. I don't know how you're doing it. I feel like you just kept them on silent for years, and now you're like, here's a book, there a book. Everybody like Oprah. You're just giving everybody books. But my favorite book that I've read, and again, I'm a firm believer in not promoting books I personally haven't read. But Unhook the book is one I'm currently walking through. That's because it's that conversation for my generation. I don't feel like people can question any other topic in Christianity until they know how to question the scriptures. Yeah. I feel like that's the first one. So I'm a big fan of this Unhook the book. Yeah, you also have Bible study books. Galatians is in my office, Ephesians is in my office. But my favorite book, and I'm blanking on the title, but the cover is the guy disappearing.
Oh,
the
Religion Busters.
Religion Busters. That's right.
Yeah.
And I love the subtitle, because on the subtitle of the book is the book your pastor warned you about, or say it right.
It's the book your evangelical pastor warned you about.
Yeah, I love it. I just love shots like that. What a brilliant take. But what is your favorite book, and how can people find your books?
Well, all the books are on Amazon. I think I got 8 ready to come out with I plan to do 2 more before the end of the year.
Of course,
right now I'm working on Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, and Colossians. I want to do the heart and soul of Paul's teachings. But actually, Religion Busters is probably my favorite.
It's a good one.
The first one I came out with was Hell's Illusion.
Oh, yep.
So I just came out of out with guns blazing with the first book, and at that time, that was a pretty controversial message. And again, we're kind of grown past where people now are accepting, hey, maybe there is not eternal conscious torment. Maybe we need to review this stuff. Yeah. But I like Religion Busters because I take 11 or 12 doctrines that we pretty well were ingrained with, at least I was in all my training and education and pastoring, the Adamic nature, inerrancy of Scripture. I mean, we just go through them all and just try to lay some foundation and just give some things to think about that might be a little different than what you've contemplated. But that's been a good seller. Bestseller is still Hell's Illusion. Mm-hmm. People are still looking for it. I had a call the other day from an Assembly of God pastor, and he said, I'm actually calling you from my closet in my bedroom. He said, I'm reading Hell's Illusion. He said, I know you're right. I just can't get my head around it. But he said, I don't want anybody to know I'm reading this, not even my wife. He said, I'm reading this literally in the closet. Mm-hmm. And I go, wow. Oh my gosh.
Especially Assemblies of God.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Wow. Well, again, we are so grateful to have you just in person. We're grateful for all of your work. My favorite quote of all time, seriously, when I first heard this is like, we've been in this message since 2012. Really started getting comfortable presenting it to our church in 2018, so it took a while.
Yeah, that was wisdom.
Yeah, I think one of the best pieces of advice we ever got was learn to turn the ship slow enough so people don't fall off.
Yeah.
And so sometimes people have been like, oh, do you not feel true to yourself? And like, no, I do feel true to myself, because we get these conversations behind the scene. We just recently started recording this stuff 3 years ago. And I think our church is okay with it. You know what I mean? So, but my favorite quote of all time, I've actually included it in almost every one of my published books, is Don says, the finished work of the cross gives us conclusions, not conditions. My favorite one-liner of all time. And if you actually sit with that and think about what that actually means, it will blow up grace in your life.
It sure will.
So, well, thank you for being here all the way, Louisville, Kentucky, from Houston, Texas. Thank you for your time. Thank you for jumping on the podcast. Check out Grace Awakening Network on Roku and on online. Check out Global Grace Seminary if you want to get that next degree. It is the best education. It's go at your own pace. It's affordable. Like all 3 things that you are looking for. Just do it. It's now time to do it. And buy your books, because they will truly bless and rattle. I was going to say rattle, but it will just truly bless and bring so much thought-provoking ideas.
And if you're on this journey of grace, I would say also jump on your Facebook page. I know there's a lot of dialogue, and I know that's helped a ton of people being able to convey their thoughts, or just read where other people are at to know they're not alone. And then the comments that help shape and form and these questions that people may be having. And I know for me, that's where I found most of your content, is through the Facebook group. And so
I have a personal page, but the Don Keathley Ministry Facebook page is where you want to jump. I got 7,500 people in that community, and it's a safe place. It's a private group, so you have to be accepted, but it's a safe place to dialogue and ask questions. So
it really is. Do you have any closing thoughts for us?
Not really.
Love it.
Just everybody hang tight and keep doing what you're doing and keep on the journey, brother. It's all good.
That's right. Yeah. So we close our episode with a phrase. It's "You're loved and there's nothing you can do about it." And we'd be honored if you would close out this episode with that phrase.
What was the phrase again?
You are loved and there's nothing you can do about it.
Absolutely, man. You are loved and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.